Good evening. I am Cynthia Elliott, President of the Rochester Board of Education. We are continuing our work on developing our goals. We had a number of sessions in the previous weeks that will help us to develop those goals. That information is going to help to inform us of those goals. In our last session tonight, we will be having the superintendent and his team to go over the strategic plan that is being proposed from the district. And so, but first what we want to do is to be able to, I'm going to go around to my colleagues on the board to be able to sort of do some brainstorming sessions around what we see our goals are for the coming year. And we talked about having three goals because we think that that's more manageable as opposed to having 5. And so what I'm going to do now, and Rahima is going to take the notes, what I'd like to do is to go around and just for you to list out or share what are some of the things that goals that you would propose that we focus on. So Commissioner Adams, if it's okay, I will start with you in terms of, what goals do you feel that we should be accomplishing as a board for the 23-24 school years?
Excuse me, President Elliott. I'm sorry. No, you did not. I just want to interject and let commissioners know that some summary points that you all made in your August 17th session with State Monitor Alisea is in front of you, just as a reminder. If you look at it, it has those priorities as well as some challenges and strengths that you all noted for the district, and it might help to further the conversation.
Thank you, Rahima. You got to push down the mute button, really push down on that. And Commissioner Adams, before you go for it, I just also want to recognize that Commissioner Malloy is on Zoom and is joining us. Okay. Commissioner Malloy, would you like to share what goals that you are recommending for us to work on?
Well, I know I don't have the same materials in front of me that you all have. I'm just going to need to get a copy of that. So I would like to see those just to see the recap of the August 17th meeting. I am interested to see if we could perhaps brainstorm. I was talking just of August 17th with some of the chiefs, and I'm wondering if there's a way that we can connect some social emotional goals to student outcomes. So I would be interested in seeing that, but obviously any goals surrounding outcomes like math or English improvement. I'm looking for literacy improvement as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Malloy. Commissioner Adams, get back to you.
So, I hate to leave out any of these. Focus on math and ELA improvement is definitely an important one. I don't know how to include this in here, but I just feel strongly that we need to work on the climate of the district, man. Make people want to be here. I don't know how we're going to go about that, but we need to infuse a positive climate, and it just will, it enhances learning. So that's what I would like to try to figure out.
Thank you. All right. Anything else, Commissioner?
No, that's it. That's it for now.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Simmons?
Yes, I would say ditto to the point that Commissioner Adams made. After a few listening sessions over this summer, I would definitely say school climate is something we need to focus on. As far as our SMART goals, anything around the instructional core. And so that literacy piece, as you know, I'm going to always lift that. And I think that we need to put some more muscle around the graduation and what that looks like, and not just the rates and if students are meeting credit requirements, but are they meeting the readiness component of that. So those are things that I would lean into, and always the financial piece. I think we are getting our arms around a better direction. Vice President LeBron has introduced participatory budgeting and things of that nature, and so I'd love to see us making sure that we continue to be fiscally responsible.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. Are you ready, Vice President? Should I go down too? All right. Yep. So, Commissioner Powell, we're talking.
For the delay. I want to second Commissioner Adams' notion that school climate, how important school climate is, but in a broadly defined sense. We have to have a climate of that's safe and secure for our kids and for our teachers. We need a climate that is challenging, that where everyone understands that academically rigorous work is important, and that needs to be part not just of climate but of culture, the culture. So I guess I want to expand on what Commissioner Adams said. An example of that, if you'll indulge me, is once upon a time, World of Inquiry had always been a highly chosen, an overchosen school. Folks, even before we had managed choice, people were signing their kids up, you know, years in advance. There was a joke that you had to sign up your children when you were still pregnant because otherwise you couldn't get in. It wasn't true, but that was the joke. Then we had a change of principle, and that popularity was independent of academic performance, independent of math and ELA scores. We had a change of principle, and the incoming principal said, yes, we can have a warm, loving environment that embraces our children and embraces the inquiry model, but we can also achieve. We can also, you know, demand more of our students with regard to math and ELA scores. And wouldn't you know, math and ELA scores went up simply because the expectation was higher, the bar was set higher. So it can be done. It can be done sympathetically and empathically, and still, you know, so that we have a warm, caring, but rigorous culture. That's what I'd like to see us focus on.
Thank you, Commissioner Powell. Can you come back to the Commissioner? Vice President Brown?
Thank you. Just looking at these, I just want to also add communication, and I just have to share, like, I don't know if anybody else is getting inundated, but I am inundated with hundreds of emails right now from staff to parents, and I'm trying to keep up, but as you all know, I'm having time challenges with my being pulled in a million directions. But I am talking about 540 emails. I'm down to 325 that I still need to plow through this weekend. And a lot of these emails could be literally avoided if at the very basic level when a parent walks in, they're answered correctly and explained. And it's so frustrating. This is 6 years in, I'm still having to explain to parents the basics around pre-K to kindergarten and the transition, right? That you can pick any pre-K, but once you go into K, you fall under the policy. Here's the policy. And even with staff, right? Staff not knowing what's happening in their building or what their leadership is going to look like, and they're wanting to know and for them to be better prepared. I just have to add communication at all levels. It impacts the budget, how we communicate the budget to our families and our community and to the school communities, communications from departments to staff. Lots of issues are centered around that, and issues, like I said, that could be prevented or minimized. And for me, communications, even a focus on math and ELA, I don't even think we can get there until we strengthen how we communicate not only the expectations to the staff, right, but also hearing the staff and the supports that they need to rise up to meet those expectations. So I just have to add that on there because it has been a very challenging couple of days trying to get through. And I know I'm bugging Carmine this week, but that's because people just genuinely don't have answers. And again, a lot of these things could be solved for them or not leave them hanging if we had communication. But also, when I look at like some of these lists here on student outcomes, right, communicating, if I was to stop a staff person at a school who's part of a team that may be tracking and monitoring students and ask them what they're actually tracking and monitoring or how they're doing that, they themselves may not know because they're just showing up to meetings and you have leaders just kind of taking that on. So I would just like to see better communications, internal and external, formalized. Thank you.
So one of the things that, excuse me. So one of the things that I would keep in mind is that we were, somehow what Vice President LeBron just articulated, as well as Commissioner Adams, that if we perhaps can look at those from a guardrail perspective, and not necessarily goals, because we want to focus in on student outcomes. And so I would just keep that in mind. Not to say that that should not be on the list that we're brainstorming, but how do we capture that, you know, in terms of wanting to focus in on special ed and ELL and those kinds of things, you know. And so somehow we've got to, that's going to be the job of the superintendent to do that, so that I'm just shook that you've gotten so many emails around those kinds of things. That's crazy that she's getting those kinds of emails. But I would also just add, and we probably already have talked about this in part, but you know, we've got to look at special education. We've got to look at ELL. We've got to look at how do we increase AP courses, and you know, the literacy and math increase, and you know, teachers of color. That's got to be a guardrail too. And then receivership schools. But I think a lot of this falls into the academics of ELL and math. And so, but are there some other, you know, goals that we would like to look at, you know, and those are the ones that I thought about, but let me just go around again. Commissioner Malloy, I think you should have the document that Rahima sent out. Is there anything else you would like to add to this?
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on what you were saying about guardrails and just the importance of covering everything that all the commissioners have mentioned so far. I think when we come up with the 3 goals, we want to make sure that they're measurable, right? That they can be made into SMART goals. And I think we should maybe have 1 goal for ELA, 1 goal for math, and maybe 1 social emotional type goal that could be measured in some capacity.
Thank you. Anything else from the commissioners? Okay, and so our next, Rahima?
Yes. So I was keeping a list, and I just want to bring, so the point was to kind of drill down your list of priorities that you had spoken about. And so the ones that received multiple comments was school climate and literacy. So I would imagine that you probably want to connect the climate and the SEL to your point. But then that would leave you with still a 3rd goal that you might want to consider, a topic. So we would take these priorities and then work with the superintendent to make them into measurable SMART goals. So what would be your 3rd priority that you would like to see that happen with?
Let me just open it up to my colleagues. We may have to come back to that one.
It's all right.
Oh, Commissioner Adams?
For our district, staffing is an issue. For our district, staffing is an issue, but you may call that a guardrail or whatever, but it's a necessity. I know that. We need to have people in place, man. You know, we need to have the right bus drivers. I guess maybe that can fall under the category of climate, because that'll keep everybody's attitude right. But I don't know. I just can't, sometime with the guardrail thing, the guardrail sometimes is more of a priority for me than the goal.
Okay. Anyone else has anything else to add? We can also do the graduation rate. I'm looking in the book, College and Career Readiness. Commissioner Powell?
So I have a pretty basic question. There are so many metrics you can measure academic success by, and I'm not sure how we could set one goal that would cover all the potential metrics. Doesn't it make sense for us to have goals similar to what we had last year and let the superintendent develop the SMART goals, the specific measurable achievable goals within each category? I mean, I just wonder at the board level whether that's establishing 3 SMART goals leaves 100,000 potential goals off the table.
If I can jump in, I kind of echo those sentiments as far as looking at what we had last year. We're pretty much in alignment with what we already had last year. When we look at it, we had improved financial condition, increased academic achievement, and then we had equity in there and the school climate. So some of the goals that we are talking about today are the very goals that we have sitting on the district website from 22-23. So I think we just need to get smarter, as we said, about how we have been measuring them and then looking at how we're looking at guardrails. But we have some of those goals already here. And I think the financial piece is always a very important component for this district. So I think that's also on there.
So when you, if it's the goal is increase academic achievement or increase, all right. So what I'm looking at in AJ's book is to make it more specific. In terms of reading, he says every student reads on or above grade level.
Right.
So that's the kind of specificity we want in our goal.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this, President Elliott. Are you saying, because would we put it as a goal as improve academic achievement, and then for a specific point we would say we would be putting every child reads on grade level in these grades, or would literacy be the actual goal?
Yeah, however we want to, but I think that the goal, as I'm looking at AJ's book, it needs to be something that we can, that we understand, because even when you're talking about increased academic achievement, and there are the metrics there, but is it what this board wants to accomplish? So for example, if we're talking about, increasing literacy, and that's, a passion of this board, I think that we may need to want to be specific and then have the superintendent or the deputy superintendent to list for us what are those metrics under increasing the literacy rate.
Right, I'm in agreement with that.
Yeah.
That would make it a SMART goal.
It makes it simple too. Yep.
I just want to add, though, that every time we go through this process, for me, it feels misaligned, because I do feel like we need to really prioritize the goals in alignment with the budget, because if there are some financial costs to the goals that we're setting now, there's going to be misaligned, or we're not going to be able to actually implement it because we passed a budget that didn't discuss these goals or the financial implication to implement these goals to the budget. So I just have to add that, because if we're talking about making SMART goals, I think this entire process that needs to change so that it's in alignment as we move forward with the budget, because we're going to be talking about our budget goals, and that's one piece. But in hindsight, we probably should just have one set of goals and not have budget priority goals. Our goals should be funded as a budget priority because they were already established prior to the implementation. Because we're all having this conversation now, but Raheem was going to email you all, our clerk, and tell you we're going to have the discussion coming up for budget priorities for next year, but we already passed this year's budget. So I just have to put that out there. If there's any way, like, we figure this out for this year, but then we start our goal planning and align it with the budget season. That way we can have an alignment there, but also some funding for the administration for the implementation.
Right, wouldn't that be the goal for financial?
The finance goals are separate from the board goals, that's what I'm saying. And also the board goals have never aligned to what the board fiscal goals are. And I'm saying there has to be an alignment because if we're talking about increasing, I'm just throwing a random one out here, math scores, right? And that requires the superintendent to have an actionable plan of hiring 10 additional math teachers to be implemented at the schools. That's not in the budget. He's not even literally not going to be able to make that happen within this fiscal year. So there's no financial backing to these goals, but there are financial backings to our fiscal goals, but not to the following school year. So I'm just saying we're misaligned.
So I hear you, and I'm agreeing with that. I want to understand. So because on our site, we have board goals. And under board goals, the first thing says, improve the financial condition of the RCSD. Would that then become a specific point where we would say the financial part of that fiscal condition would be making sure that the board goals are in alignment with our financial responsibilities, or that would be like separate?
That would be separate, because when the fiscal goals went in there, one, we're still having conversations of making sure that we're sticking within our budget, right? We've had a long, tumultuous history of passing budgets and then adding additional expenses after the budget's been passed, so we don't want to keep doing that. The other piece is the participatory budgeting, which is going to really change how we move forward with our budget and how the public also has the ability to give input into that budget. But what I'm saying is, I'm actually okay with trying to figure out how we collapse it into the two into one. And because the other thing too is, like, we have these board fiscal goals, again, not in alignment with our goals or even the superintendent's goal. And it's just an additional set of goals out there that are met through the budget process, but it would not go into effect this school year. That's what I'm saying, so.
Let me just, Commissioner Adams, I see, I just want to follow through on that, and if you don't mind, have the superintendent to follow through on it too. Because,
Thank you.
let me just say what, and I've asked that those metrics be put up, because those metrics are not very different of the ones that we are talking about putting into that we are considering. So as opposed to just saying increase academic achievement, what we may want to be more specific to say, every student reads, and I'm not saying we're going to say this per se, but every student reads on or above grade level. That's more specific. But a number of the metrics will be or are in line with what we may be considered, because what I'm hearing around the table is around literacy, around math. It just seems to me that we've got to just reword them so that they're more specific. And for me, let me just say, it will, and that it's more motivational. Let me just put it that way. But I want the superintendent to respond, then I need to have Commissioner Adams to share. Oh, I'm sorry. It's heavy.
Thank you, President Elliott. Yeah, I believe that, if we could streamline a little bit of those, like improve the financial conditions of the RCSD or increase academic achievement. So when you look at increase academic achievement, if you look at what the council has used for goals in the past and guide rules, you would see all, like President Elliott just said, all students will be able to read on or above grade level. But in that, the district then creates the metrics that would be increased 3 through 8 percentage over X amount of years, right? X percentage, right? Makes them smart. I think the one thing about our goals is last year, was a step in that direction, right? We didn't have strong baseline to run off of, because we were also coming from past COVID, not having strong set of data. But we could use, I believe, stronger overarching like that goal. Instead of increase academic achievement, it should be something on reading goals or ELA, something specific to math, and something specific to graduation. And then your guardrails could be, you know, a welcoming and supportive schools, right? School experiences, whatever it may, you know, I heard climate, I heard, you know, challenging culture. There could be some other guardrails that could be put in there. Teachers, hiring teachers of color, right? You know, whatever it is from a guardrail standpoint that help that goal. I think we just need to do goals of, you know, the board feels around if it's reading, math, and college and career readiness or graduation. And then, once again, we'll create the metrics. This was an attempt last year. You know, some of them were better than others as you look at these, and we could tighten those up this year.
Commissioner Adams?
Yeah, so from my understanding of the goals, especially if they're SMART goals, we need to be able to put a start date and an end date on it. So we can't realistically say that we're going to just have everybody on par with reading. I think the goal would have to state that we want an increase of 10% in 2 years. I think that's how that was meant to be specified. Because if we say we just want everybody on grade level, we're never going to reach that goal, and it's too broad, and we need to be more specific. One other thing is that some kind of way we should be able to put something in here that's really doable as a goal, and that would be, for example, reduce the number of receivership schools, right size. I don't like to use that language, but right size. These are things that we're in the process of doing, and so that should be listed as a goal, because we have big plans. When it comes to that.
Yeah. So just one point, Commissioner Adams, I would not say we couldn't have the goals that we talked about, increasing literacy rate, because these goals are going to be for 3 to 5 years, and so we can have, and we're not even saying in that goal that everybody's going to be at grade level, but certainly to your point, we are going to have some measures in there that we're going to try to increase year over year over year. Right. And before we get, I know we got to go to the strategic plan, but Commissioner Malloy, let me just ask if you have something that you want to say, any input?
Sure, yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on what you were just saying about how these goals should be achievable within 3 to 5 years, and then that's the progress monitoring that we're hopefully going to be implementing as a board, which would be setting interim goals to reach those long-term goals as well. So there's a whole process involved, but the how-to really is up to the superintendent and the team. It's just our job to come up with the 3 to 5 SMART goals that are measurable of student outcomes.
Thank you, Commissioner Powell, Commissioner Malloy. Vice President LeBron?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate the alignment with the budget, because the budget really is your priority. You can have goals, but if we're not funding them, they're not going to happen, and we have to support the funding and the alignment with our budget, and those are our priorities. We can write all these things and waste our time and say these things, but if we're not putting funding behind it to meet those goals, we're not going to meet them, no matter how many good metrics we put in there. Because to increase even, and I'll give ELA and reading as a specific example, by 10% in a year with the current resources we have, it's not going to happen. The reality is that there's going to be a fiscal cost to whether it's restructuring how it's taught or done, training for staff, and additional reading teachers, if you will, implemented, reading clinics implemented in schools. All of that costs money, and so I'm just going to reiterate that piece. That's all.
Right, that's incremental progress that we would be looking at. No one would want to, 50% in next 6 months, nothing crazy, right? Obviously, it would be very incremental. So what I would like to hear are some solutions on how we can make that alignment, because it does sound like we need to revisit that process so that we can make sure our SMART goals, because I think we understand them, it's just, it's getting murky in the conversation, but how our SMART goals can be aligned and identified so that the budget is contingent on what we've identified we want to do, and they are supported properly. So is there a thought process on how we can?
Well, we won't
Do
discuss
that.
that this evening, Commissioner Simmons.
Okay.
We're going to go to the strategic plan, but let me just from my perspective, you have something? Because we got to
May
go
I-
to the strategic
may
plan,
I?
but.
Yeah, so, my thoughts on the question of the budget priorities versus a goal of financial improvement is, it seems to me that no budget priority should be entertained that cannot be, where a straight line can't be drawn to our goal or a subset of our goal. That's what I have to say on the financial side. In terms of paring down our list of goals, I do think financial improvement should be continue to be one of the goals. Academic achievement should be one. Climate and culture should be another. The more I think about it, and I said this the last time we met, equity is a value that should be part of the guardrails on everything we do, financial, climate, and academic. So at the risk of putting a target on my back, I really do think of the goals we have today, we could eliminate equity by ensuring that equity and diversity are part of our value structure, and that it's understood that equity and diversity are part of the how we do everything.
Thank you, Commissioner Powell. So I'm excited about us developing these more and coming to the community with a set of goals. That is going to be coming up. Continued work on that is going to be coming up, and we'll be in contact with you when that's going to be. But I will turn it over now to the superintendent to talk about the strategic plan. And let me just say to the district that we want the strategic plan to be aligned with the goals that the board is going to be bringing. And so there needs to be some adjustment because we want the board to lead this work, and that the strategic plan supplements what we're, our goals.
Good evening, everyone. So I think what we were just discussing ties very nicely into where we're going to go in our next conversation. What we're going to do today is we have a strategic planning steering committee that's been working, and very proud of the makeup of the steering committee that we have. Consists of teachers, all unions, representative parents, community, students, a great team that has been meeting, and we've met a couple of times already and really started to flesh out some thoughts on core values, mission, and vision, and would like to share some of that input that we've received, also begin to get your input on this so that we can continue our strategic planning in the right way. And as you know, we've approved, and you all approved, a contract with Insight, who's a vendor that is helping us throughout this process. And here with us today is their team, and Aurora Laura is one of the leaders from Insight, and she's going to take it from here to kind of get us started. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Superintendent Peluso, President Elliott, and board members. We're excited to be here today. My name is Aurora Laura. I'm with Insight Education, and I would love to start, if it's okay. We'll just do this really quickly, but I'd love for each person to share a word or phrase to describe how you're feeling about the next district strategic plan. before we jump into core values. Can we just go around? Yeah, actually, everyone should share. How do you feel?
Excited.
Pumped up.
Adrian Neal, I'm not a board member, but I've been with the district 8 years, and I'm optimistic.
Let's go to Commissioner Malloy. Commissioner Malloy? We'll come back to her again. Oh, there she is. We had a question that we're being asked to answer, our name and how do we feel about the strategic plan, the development of the strategic plan?
I can't hear.
Oh, because I cut my mic off.
Go.
Commissioner Malloy, can you hear me?
No, I don't hear it through the system.
I had my mic off. I apologize.
Oh,
So,
no.
so we're going around the room. The representative from Insight, who's handling the strategic plan. You want to repeat what you just said?
Sure. Yeah, we're just going around the room sharing a word or phrase to describe how you feel about the next district strategic plan.
Optimistic.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Adams. It's hard to hit that mute button when you got fake nails.
Oh, thoughtful.
So Beatrice LeBron, Vice President. I've been on the board 6 years, and I'm going to say, yes, I can't even say it. She said it for me. Thank you.
Skeptical.
She's a skeptic. Yeah. Cynthia Elliott, President of the Board. I am motivated and optimistic. It's a lot of work that we got to do, but a heavy lift, but totally motivated, totally optimistic.
Good evening once again, Carmine Peluso, Superintendent, and I'm going to use encouraged and necessary. I think necessary is important for us right now.
Commissioner Willa Powell, 24 years. I broke out my thesaurus and came up with hopeful.
I'm Elisea State Monitor, and she just took my word, hopeful and excited.
Good evening, I'm Marisol Ramos Lopez, and my word is enthusiastic.
Good evening, I'm Rahima Wynn, and my word is hopeful.
Great. And Ninika's with me, so we'll introduce ourselves in a minute. Oops. So I just want to share a little bit about our organization, and then Ninika and I will introduce ourselves. But Insight Education is a group that is made up of practitioners in education. I myself have worked in education for 23 years, and I've been a teacher, a principal supervisor, deputy superintendent, and superintendent. So we have people who know district work, who have been in the trenches, and we know kind of the things that districts go through. And so we just want to make sure you know that we have a lot of experience in education. We're also committed to a partner-driven process, and so sometimes as we develop these, there are different ways that different districts want to approach it. It sounds like we might make a modification to our normal process, because if you all set the goals and priorities, then we fill in the blanks underneath. So we like to just change it up and make sure we're meeting the needs of each district in terms of how we develop this strategic plan. And we also just understand and appreciate the challenges, nuances, and opportunities of implementing small and large-scale systems and initiatives. And we understand that in this district, we've got a lot of plans and different things that all need to come into alignment. And so we want to work just collaboratively with the other departments or people that have got their plans to make sure we're all working towards the same goals. I'd love for Ninika to go ahead and introduce herself too. She's going to be my co-presenter today.
Good evening. I'm Nanika Bernard with Insight, similar to Aurora. I I've been a teacher, principal, district leader, university instructor as well. So excited to be here and continue this work with you guys. Had a great session last week with other stakeholders, so we're excited to share some of the things they had.
So I just want to explain our strategic plan framework. One of the things we do in the very beginning is we work with districts to establish a vision, mission, and set of core beliefs or core values. So that's what we're going to work on today. We did the activities last week with the steering committee, and so we're going to share with you what we heard from that group. It's got about 30 people, and like Superintendent Peluso said, it is made up of teachers, students who had lots of great ideas, parents, community members, teachers, principals, and central office leaders. So this is kind of a wide range of stakeholders that came together, and we're going to share their ideas with you, but then you all make the decision about what the core values, vision, and mission will be. So after that, there's another team, it's called CTAC, and they're working with a team over in the district to develop a theory of action. And so what we're going to do after this meeting is share where we land with vision, mission, and core values, share it with that team so we make sure the theory of action for the district is aligned to the work that we're doing. Then in the process, what we do is we typically develop priorities and goals. From my observation of this meeting, it sounds like the board is going to go ahead and set the priorities and goals. So we'll probably focus our energy then on the next pieces. What I saw on your board is it looked like you had the priorities set, and underneath you had a good set of goals. What we do as the next part of that process is go under each goal to identify the measurable benchmarks along the way. So we usually write those in the form of SMART goals. And then we also write the activities that go along with each of those goals. So all of that together is what will form our strategic plan. Here is the timeline for us developing the strategic plan. So we have been in the project planning phase, identifying when we're going to do our stakeholder surveys. We're doing data analysis right now, and we've started running the steering committee. The steering committee has 6 meetings over the course of this year to give feedback on different pieces of the plan. We're about to launch a stakeholder survey, I believe, this week that will ask people what they believe some of the priority, what is important to them in terms of what we should work on. And it also just asks them, what should we start doing, what should we stop doing, and what should we continue doing? So we just like to get feedback to share with the district about what we've heard, from parents and students and all of our stakeholders. After that, we work with the district leadership team to go ahead and develop those metrics and the actions that go underneath each one. Then we take it back to the steering committee for feedback. We run focus groups where we get feedback from all kinds of other stakeholders. So we'll do them with students, teachers, community members, parents, principals, central office workers, because we want to get a lot of input from everyone. We'll also bring it back to the board for input. And we take all the input that we've got to make revisions, and we kind of go back and forth until we've got a document that we all feel good about. Our plan is to ideally finish this plan in December. If we need to make any final revisions to it, then we'll bring it back in January for the board to review and approve. And our goal is to do that so it ends in time for the budget cycle, so we can make sure the budget is aligned to the strategic plan. And then the strategic plan goes into effect for July 1. The strategic plan will be a 5-year plan. So these are the goals that you set are the things that we want to accomplish over the next 5 years. But we go into the weeds and identify where we should be each year to hit that goal. So this is just the things that we do with the steering committee. We've shown them some sample strategic plans, and they identified what pieces they liked and what they would like ours to look like in the end. Second meeting, we got their feedback on core values, vision, and mission. At our next meeting, we're going to look at some district data. We're going to look at the results of our stakeholder survey and start to talk about the goals that you all set and how we might achieve them. We kind of do that over 2 meetings, so that's where we bring them some ideas and get their feedback. And we go back and forth, and then in the end, we just do our final review, and they get to give us feedback on the overall plan. Okay, and I'm going to turn it over to Nanika.
Good evening again. So today we're going to focus on core values, vision, and mission. And as superintendent has already stated, you guys have really jumped into this conversation already. So great that you're thinking in that direction. And so what is each element? When we look at core values, it's a set of beliefs that drive all behaviors of the district, a set of beliefs. And so you guys, again, have already started speaking to that. The vision describes what the district hopes to achieve or be in the future. And then finally, the mission articulates what is unique about who the district is, what the district does, and who the district serves. I went pretty quickly there. Let's go back. There. So when we look at core values, you'll notice at the bottom of the pyramid is the foundation. And so we start there because as you really clean that up and go deep into that conversation, you're then able to really go in and revisit your vision, your mission, and then go into that strategic plan. Those things really are building blocks to get to a strong strategic plan. So again, the core values, what do we stand for going into that vision? Where are we going? Who do we aspire to achieve? The mission, what do we do and who do we do it for? And then we start planning based on those once we're really clear on those 3 foundational components. So Brene Brown says this about the core value. She says, a value is a way of being or belief that we hold most important. Living into our values means that we do more than profess our values. We practice them. We walk our talk. We are clear about what we believe and hold important. And we take care that our intentions, words, thoughts, and behaviors align with those beliefs. Take a couple of seconds and just kind of read that to yourself as you think about it and reflect on the prior slide that showed that pyramid and talked about how it's the core as we move forward. So let's take a moment and look a little bit more at core values. Again, they direct our behavior and our decision making. But we've got a couple of examples we want you to be able to see from districts that created those. You'll notice the core values. Some of the high points there are diversity, empathy, integrity, innovation, equity. Again, very similar. These are not just one-word statements. They are a couple of words, but highlighted are the core within there. So you've got developing people, equity, keeping students our priority, integrity, and joy. Similar, students first, equity, excellence, teamwork, courage, and joy. Similarly, welcoming, equity-focused, empowering, innovative, results-driven. And so I want you to take a minute to look at some of the keywords that were identified from the steering committee last week. You'll notice the words that are larger and in bold were words that were repeated over and over. So the more repetition, the larger it appears in the word cloud. As you're looking at those, I want you to identify 2 to 3 words that resonate with you as you think about core values, again, what we do. What words resonate with you that you see here or that you saw in some of the others? We're going to share out shortly. And if you're like me and need a long pencil for your short memory, I stole that from my mom. I used to joke about her, but now I'm there. Feel free to write some down that you want to share out or expound on in just a few moments. So you had a moment to look at quite a bit, but I want to ask these two questions. What is compelling and or not compelling about the samples shared? And then as you think about the ones that were shared from your constituents, your community members, what words represent the values that you think we need to consider? And I'll go back if you need to look at the word cloud again. There it is. So we've been starting from the right. I'm going to shift gears and we'll start from the left this time.
Are you talking about with, let's go with Rakima, or those are staff?
So we'll start from the board.
Okay.
Commissioner Powell or State Monitor?
We're talking about core values?
Yes. So any words that stuck out for you that were compelling or not compelling?
Yeah, from the word cloud, equity is absolutely the top of the list. From the examples that we saw, I struggled with the idea of innovation being a core value. I mean, at this stage, don't we know what works in education? I don't, maybe I'm being a little bit of a skeptic there, but it doesn't belong on the same list of equity, if you ask me.
Okay, thank you.
So I put down student-centered, academic excellence, and leadership.
Thank you. Vice President?
For me, community relationships, equity and diversity. That stand out the most for me, and as a core value, I would love for us to have more diversity in our teaching, but honestly, I think that is more of a global issue that has to be addressed at the federal level and the state level on how teachers are even licensed at this point, because we're not gonna be able to solve it, if you will.
Thank you. Commissioner Simmons?
I like all the words, but I could have kept writing. But high expectations started there. Academic excellence, student-centered, accountability is a word I use a lot, and I want to make sure I model it. Transparency is something that I think is needed, and then the community relations, and of course, equity.
Commissioner Adams?
So I wrote down equity and diversity as well, but I think that falls under the category of it can't even be equitable without having diversity. But I did write that down, and I also wrote down resilience, because the ancestors passed that down to us. That's all we know.
Commissioner Malloy, I don't know if you were able to hear what the presenter
Yeah,
said.
I did.
All right.
I heard it. I just can't see everything on the screen,
Okay.
because it was a quick flash. But for me, some of the words that stood out instantly were equity, diversity, and high expectations.
Outstanding. Thank you guys for sharing those. And as we move into vision, we'll come back and continue to think about those. But we do want to hone in on the words that represent values critical to RCSD. So we'll be collecting those and come back as we look at what you consider your core values. But do we want to look at those now?
Yes, so what we'd ideally like is if we can try to narrow it down to 5 for the district. And so we've heard a lot of examples. I'll share everything I've heard. Equity, student-centered, academic excellence, leadership, community relations, equity, diversity, high expectations, academic excellence, student-centered, accountability, transparency, community relations, equity, diversity, resilience, equity, diversity, high expectations. So if we want to take a minute and see if we can kind of narrow it down to 5, I would love to do that, or at least find a few that we all agree with.
Can I make a plug here as well? Sure. I know you guys are all talking. If you go, so for me as a core value, I know academic and excellence.
Well, we didn't even ask you, did we?
I know, that's right. So that's why I'm interjecting right now. That's right. So we have on that slide, we had academic excellence and excellence came, and if you kind of combine those two, that would actually bubble up to be a lot. But when I'm thinking of a core value, and I heard academic excellence, excellence is something that I'm going to be talking about a lot. From excellence, from when you walk into our district office, you're given excellence when you're greeted. You get excellence in our human capital department. You get excellence in everything. So for a core value to me and an expectation to me is we're going to strive for excellence in everything we do. So when we go to academic excellence, I think that kind of brings it and narrows it down a little bit. So for me, I just want you to think about a core value, like how are we going to treat people? How are we going to be with people? How are we going to act as a district, as our center? And so I just want to put that plug in for excellence.
Thank you. So we need to go around to sort of, and come and boil it down to 5. Okay. Seems a lot of people talked about diversity and equity. Can that be rolled into one, or? So, diversity and equity. I know I didn't hear a lot about student-centered. Is that one that we don't want to have as one of the 5? Yeah, I heard a lot around diversity and equity, but I didn't hear about student-centered. I think Commissioner Malloy mentioned student-centered.
I mentioned student-centered,
okay.
too.
So, yeah. Yeah, can you go put the words back up there?
Yeah.
Madam President,
Commissioner Powell?
so I want to put in a plug for empowerment. And I mean empowering our students as well as empowering our teachers. I've been stewing over that value that several of the examples had, innovation, and I was trying to think what could replace that and be global, and empowerment seems to me something that we should be valuing, that would allow teachers to individualize their instruction, that would encourage students to, put their best foot forward and be their unique selves.
All right, so since we have to do 5, I'm wondering, and we talked about student-centered, is there some way in which we can fuse empowering or empowerment with student-centered, or is that totally separate? Okay.
So,
Commissioner Adams?
yeah, when I said resilience, that's what I was talking about, the students. Resilience, when I said the ancestors passed that down,
Yeah.
These students have had to endure COVID, Kia, all kind of stuff. All literacy, lack of literacy, shortage of teachers, and yet they still thrive, they still survive. The resilience, man, is
Yeah,
Can I just say one thing, President? Because, what's Dr. Patina Love's book, what? We want to do more than survive, right? We want our children to thrive. And that's why I'm strong on that high expectations, because I believe that's like, I definitely believe we need to be student-centered, but when we categorize students, label students, and lower our expectations of their abilities, and I'm not talking about teachers, I'm talking about the culture of this district. When there's something there, we need to have very high expectations of our children, even if they're not reaching them right now. It's something that we just cannot afford to pull away from. we have to have high expectations.
So Commissioner Simmons, would academic excellence cover that?
Yeah, because that was another one of mine, and so, yeah, I would be willing to put that under academic excellence.
All right. Commissioner Malloy?
Thank you. I was wondering if there's a way, I don't know if anyone else said this already, but inclusive. If we consider the many populations of students that we serve and the varying needs of our students, I think inclusivity is very important for us to address.
I just want to ask for clarity. If you asked us to pull 5 words from the feedback already provided by the groups you've met with, and inclusion is on this, so it's like a form of what Commissioner Malloy just mentioned, but I'm just asking for clarity because 1, I want to go home at some point today. 2, I want to narrow it down to our 5. I would support the superintendent's recommendation, which rolls under academic excellence, to just say excellence across. And we can say excellence, including academic, including fiscal and community relations. I feel like those 3 could technically be rolled into one, but just for clarity.
Yes. So yes, we would like to pull from the feedback from the steering committee.
Okay.
But let me also, go ahead.
So you are also the Board of Education, right? So I think President Elliott was going to say that if there's something that our community and people did not come up with, yes, this would be the time, right? We're providing what our work has been,
Right.
but we're here because this is going to be our plan, right? And I need the board to be 100% in support and behind this as well. So your ideas should not be to just take this feedback, but to bring your thinking as well.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner,
Yeah, I just, but I hear that, but here's the thing, right? Who was all part of the steering committee? Were there community members? Because it's almost a slap in the face if we're asking people to take time for free. We're all, compensated right now, but to take time for free to give this feedback and then to pull from their feedback, and then we start adding, and it's not a two-way conversation from this board to the community. And yes, we're elected and we're the board, but we're elected by these same individuals who help put this together. And that's all, because even for myself, as we did some focus groups for the budget book, and we're gonna be bringing that feedback back to the board next month. But one of the biggest things that bubbled up was, okay, what happens to our feedback now, and how are we going to know what was incorporated, not incorporated? Because again, that's been a long-standing practice of this district, to survey people to death. And you guys said focus surveys, and I was like, our community has been surveyed year after year, sometimes back to back because of our superintendent rollover. Every superintendent wanted to come in, want a survey, want to have a 90-day plan, and when you have it back to back to back to back, I'm not advocating that we further, push on that, but that's all. So I hear both sides of this, but I just want to highlight that I want to thank the people that put this together and took the time out for free.
I will tell you the group that is on the strategic planning committee, steering committee, and I will make sure that's in the board letter, and it's going to be on a website to see everyone that is involved on the team. We have an outstanding team, but we've been truthful to them, and they've said, well, what if the board doesn't take this? And we said, well, the board is going to be very respectful of the input that the community has given through the steering committee, but they also have a voice in this process as well, and that's all I'm saying. So they recognize that we're going to come back to them and say, here's what we presented, and these are the 5 that the board is going to get behind. So, and there was nothing there. They just wanted to know that you're hearing their feedback before we make some decisions.
And just to also build on that, we take it after you guys decide. We do take it back to the steering committee and just get any feedback that they have on it that we'll share with you before we finalize them. So we do get some additional feedback. So they'll be able to see, the board ultimately makes the decision, and it doesn't have to be on this list, but they're going to see, I'm sure you will, well, you've already talked about, you'll have several things that are on the list.
So what I'm looking at up there, there's 4 very clear big ones. Those are the ones that popped up most. So maybe we could just go with them 4 and just add.
Well, no, let me go back to Commissioner Malloy. Commissioner Malloy had mentioned inclusive, and so what I want to point out, Commissioner Malloy, is that, and part of what the conversation that comments that the superintendent just made, is that while the steering committee may have not talked a lot about inclusive, we've got a board member here who's wanting to, highlight that. And so I wanted to point that out. But the superintendent, knowing what I was thinking, I'm going to have to stay away from him, understood that that's what I wanted to bring out, because while it's low level here, seemingly, based on how it's presented, Commissioner Malloy is highlighting that. And so, but let me just go back to that, Commissioner Malloy. So you're asking about inclusive, but can't that be a part of student-centered, or is that, give me your thoughts on more on that, what you're thinking. Because we've got to boil it down to 5, and we talked about, is diversity and equity a part of, is one of the 5?
So
So if diversity and equity is part of the 5, would you be okay that is, to know that will be included under the diversity, equity?
Inclusion, as in like diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Well, I guess so. Now, this is what the steering committee came up, so I believe that's what it is, but don't quote me on that. What she has said, and if you've got the slide before you, the ones that are the biggest is the ones that people, more people talked about the most. The ones that are small print, you didn't get a lot of feedback from the committee for those ones that are in small print. Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly, and I don't have that same slide right in front of me now. I can see it.
Yeah.
I think if you're asking if that could fall under a different category, maybe student-centered, yeah, of course, inclusion could fall under student-centered. Although sometimes when I think of student-centered, I think of like student choice in learning. That's what, as an educator, that's what comes across to me. But I'm sure it could fall under that as well.
All right, thank you.
So I just have right now, so I have like DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion as 1. Student-centered, excellence, and then we've heard those 3 seem to be there. Then we heard high expectations, which I think could fall into excellence. I then heard empowerment. So I think we have like 2 others that we may want to flush out right
Let me just open it up.
No, I just want to point out as that community relationships, which is on here. Well, it says community and relationships, so I don't want to just narrow it down to just community only, but I do think everything literally starts at the root of relationships that people have, whether it's work, ourselves, each other as colleagues, student to student, student to adult, all of it is centered around relationships.
All right, looks like we have maybe one more. So we've got academic excellence, diversity, equity, inclusion, student-centered, community relationships, or is that just relationships? Okay.
I'd like to add this in too. I know I shared that the words that are the largest were the ones that were repeated the most. It doesn't mean that the other ones didn't have a very healthy conversation around it. We just had some great thinkers in the room, and some people, and so if there are some others, to the superintendent's point and to the president's point that you see that maybe aren't large, that doesn't mean that there weren't some really great conversations around those, because some people were just thinking from some great lens. And so that was the beauty of having so many people from different areas of the community come in. So just want to share that. I know you guys are looking at the larger ones, but if there are some smaller ones.
For me, family focus. But let me just open up. We've got one more left out of the 5. Me? So for me, family focus is in one that we should also include as well. But let me just open that up to commissioners. I'll start with Commissioner Powell. What's your thoughts on us having family focused?
I wonder if family focused and empowerment are kind of hand in glove. If we're family focused, we're going to empower them, right? Empower families as well as our teachers, as well as our students.
Commissioner LeBron?
I'm going to add safety as the last one because this is a 3 to 5 year strategic plan. And we're going to have to have a priority and figure out what safety looks like, not only in schools, but outside schools, and how we work with our government partners around the state of the city itself.
So is that 5 or 6? Is that 6 now?
At 6.
So we probably should, I'm thinking, I did put family focus, and I see you, Commissioner Malloy, I'll call you in a minute. I did suggest family focus, but that also can be a part of student-centered, I'm thinking, and because we have not talked about safety at all.
It also could go under relationships, because it could be relationships with family,
Okay.
community members,
Yep.
students, teachers, everything.
Definitely, definitely. Commissioner Malloy?
Yeah, at first I was going to say, I was going to agree with you, President Elliott, and say, oh, we need to have family focus as one. But then I think that does fall more under the student-centered or community relationships. But I really want to agree with Vice President LeBron that safety should be held as one of our high points.
All right.
Okay, so
Thank
we have
you, everybody.
excellence, diversity, equity, and inclusion, student-centered, relationships, and safety. We're good?
Think so?
All right. What?
One more time.
Oh, okay. Excellence, diversity, equity, and inclusion, student-centered, relationships, and safety. All right, good job. Okay, now we're going to jump into vision. And vision describes what the district hopes to achieve or be in the future. It's usually short, and it really describes the essence of what the company or the school district, what it is. So we're going to look at some sample vision statements just so you can see the kinds of things we're looking for. Now, these are from companies, but I'd love to get some guesses as to what companies these vision statements came from. So to start with, making the best possible ice cream in the nicest possible way.
Ben and Jerry's.
Oh, yeah. Ben & Jerry's, good job. To organize the world's information and make it universally
Microsoft.
accessible and useful.
Google.
Microsoft.
IBM.
Really?
Oops.
I didn't even think IBM was around.
Right, me neither. They're not.
Google.
Google.
All right.
You
to-
should be giving some prizes. Whoever gets the right one.
to make people happy. Any guesses?
It's too big. Could be anybody.
Disney.
Disney.
To develop leaders who will one day make a global difference.
That's a school district.
It could be the school districts.
No, I thought it was ours. We have something like that.
What's the thing, the world, what's that world organization? Oh, sugar.
Stephen Covey.
Is it the armed forces?
No, that's not what I thought, but
No.
UN,
it's not the
yeah, I
Army.
was thinking the UN.
Harvard. We will help people live longer, healthier, happier lives.
Pharmaceutical companies.
Better living through chemicals.
CVS.
Yeah, I was close.
And to reduce human trauma and economic costs associated with automobile accidents.
Insurance company.
Yeah.
State Farm?
Progressive.
Progressive.
All right, so what we wanted to show you is these are aspirational. It's what they want to achieve in the future. They're typically short so people can remember them. And they really kind of sum up what that company or school is about. So one way to think about visions, it does not need to have all these parts, but one way some districts think about them is having 4 different ingredients. So we've got an output. That's when you define what you do as an outcome. You start to transform your product or service into a benefit. Vision statements that talk about benefits are far more inspiring than those that talk about the service or product itself. They might have a twist where your vision statement has a unique selling point. This is a key ingredient in helping you bring focus and inspiration to your vision. Quantification. With no possible end in sight or an unrealistic one, the initial inspiration derived from a great vision can turn to frustration. Give yourself a goal to assess progress against it, but it doesn't have to be numeric. And a human connection includes something that makes people conjure a specific mental image when they read your vision statement. I know that's confusing, so I'm going to show you an example. All right, here's how one company went about putting those things together. Producing and selling locally sourced cakes and pies that are so delicious and satisfying that every customer who leaves our store does so with a smile. And like I said, you don't have to have all 4 of those, but it's sometimes helpful to include what is unique about your organization and make it inspirational to have a human connection. So here is the current district vision. Ensure all students equitable access to a high-quality education and graduate each student as a productive member of society. So what we're going to decide today is if we want to just make modifications to this or if we want to develop a new one. So I want to share with you the feedback we got. We shared the current vision with our committee. Overall, they liked it. There's just a couple words that they wanted to change. Someone said, can we change equitable access and productive member of society? There was a lot of discussion about those 2 phrases. One person said it doesn't feel like it aims high enough. We want RCSD scholars to be the best version of themselves and reach their full potential when they leave RCSD. We want them to be whole people, empathetic, caring, and global citizens who are prepared for a career path or to enter college. We want our scholars prepared for life. Someone said they feel like it lacks inspiration and they just want to see more human connection. Another person said remove productive member of society. Someone said include what makes us unique. Someone said take out equitable and excellence in academics, and add excellence in academics. And take out productive members and change it to contributing. So these were just some of the ideas for how we might strengthen our current one. We also had some individuals write some new ones that we want to share with you just as they were just brainstorming what they would put. So some of them that they wrote, we are a tight-knit community that activates dreams and unlocks potential. Creating healthy, joyful spaces, schools and programs for individual students so they are prepared for life. Ensure all students have a high-quality education, reach their highest potential, and become contributing citizens. Graduate students who are prepared for life through equitable access to high-quality education and student-centered support. So these were just some of their ideas that the groups came up with when they worked together. So I'd love to just talk about your thoughts. Would you like to keep the current vision and maybe just refresh it and make some changes, or would you like to kind of develop a new one? We're just opening this up for discussion, and I will put it back on. Should I put it on the sample ones, or you want me to put it on the old vision, the current vision? I'll leave it on this for now, but let's just get your thoughts. Do you think what do people think? Refresh the current one or start to develop a new one?
Commissioner Malloy?
Yeah, I really like the 3rd bullet. I think it updates the current vision statement, but they all are unique and nice statements.
To like the closest. I know, the mic wasn't on. It's on now? Okay. I'm just gonna agree with Commissioner Malloy. I do think the RE is for me, has the greatest potential as a baseline to kind of work through. I'll just add, Yeah, I hated our mission and vision. We had an even wonkier one before that one of the previous superintendents literally stole from another district. I only know because I Googled it, and that's what came up, even though they presented it like it was a unique or brand new idea. It was not. So yeah, I just will leave it there at 3.
So my personal vision is that 100% of the students in the Rochester City School District would graduate being career and college ready. Now, that's my personal vision. So, you know, we could tweak that, we can include that or tweak that, and you know, how does that fit into some of, what I want for me is that it's strong. It's aspirational. Some of this is a little, I think we need to add more words into it to make it hit the heart. So, because unfortunately what happens is if you don't read these over and over again, you forget what they are. So something that, you know, is striking. Now what that is, I'm not exactly sure, but something that will get our students' attention, our families' attention, you know, so that they can also, you know, participate in the you know, work towards the vision themselves, so.
Yeah. Sometimes what we end up doing is hearing certain phrases that people might want worked in, and we can go back, draft like 3 examples based on the things we heard from the board and bring it back. That's typically what we end up doing with most boards.
Yeah, because when I visualize education, like like what education was truly meant to produce, not only just contributing members of society and citizens, but free thinkers, you know what I mean? And so I feel that if we really instill education and educate these babies the way they deserve to be, they will be free thinkers, they will be innovators. And so that free thinker thing, I don't know how we can tweak that, but that's what I want to see for our children.
Also, I like the word that she used, innovators. So, you know, something that is really exciting and, you know, that we can draw people back to our district.
So maybe if you could tweak that, one or two of the things that I said into number 3, like find a way to do that, that would be really nice.
Okay. Any other phrases that people really like that you might want to see if we can weave in?
Can you go back to some of those other examples that we saw from Disney,
Yes.
Google? Because these places make a lot of money, you know, and their visions are pretty, you know, one sentence,
Yeah,
you know, and, you know, you don't have to be 2 or 3 sentences. It could just be, and, you know, how many words? 10, 12 words?
Yeah, typically the vision is 1 sentence, and the mission is a little bit longer, usually 2 to 3 sentences.
Right. I mean, make it the best possible ice cream in the nicest possible way. Wow.
Makes you want to stop.
Yeah, yeah. Commissioner Adams just said to be the most productive school in Monroe County. You know, so something that's real simple and gets to the point, and people can remember a sentence.
Yep.
So,
All right. Any other thoughts on vision
Can you scroll to the ones that
the committee
our
wrote?
steering group?
Yep.
I do like the 3rd one, ensure all students have high quality education, reach their highest potential, and become contributing citizens. There's 2 phrases I wish were in there. I don't think it's enough for people to be contributing citizens. It's like being a factory kicking out cogs. I think we should aspire to have fulfilled, well-rounded citizens as well. So those are the two words I would have injected into it, are fulfilled and well-rounded.
Okay, great. All right, any other comments?
I just wanted to agree with Commissioner Simmons, if we could include innovation somehow, become innovators. And I also wanted to just agree with Commissioner Powell about the COG comment. It does seem a little awkward in that third bullet to include that particular wording.
I do want to say that, this was really some great conversation that we had with the group, because, people didn't sit well, especially with productive members of society. It seems very compliance driven, right? And we want people to be, I think some of these words we've heard, free thinkers, individuals, respect, authenticity, like some of that all kind of came out. And, these 100% grad rate, hit the heart, free thinkers, innovation, I think they will love hearing that feedback, and we'll come up with some samples to bring forward.
And to simplify that bullet, for example, you said like one sentence. I'm not creating the sentence right now, but an example is, ensuring all students, whatever we are produced, free thinkers, whatever the case is, right? That one sentence, because the other part of that is through high quality education, through, these high expectations, they will become free thinkers and innovators of society, things of that nature. So that vision is supposed to be like, boom, that shocker, hit you with it, because that's what we aspire to be. Those other pieces go under the other part.
Yeah, I think when we see mission in a minute, that have a high quality education is how we get to the goal, and it actually probably has a better place in the mission statement.
Yeah. And I would also point out that we have to, as we do this work, we have to think about generations, right? We have to look at the millennial generation and the Gen Zers, and, so what's their language, that we have to take into consideration.
All right, any other final thoughts? Okay, so what we're gonna do is take your ideas, we're gonna kind of wordsmith them into a couple different options to bring back to you, and then you can revise them from there, or identify if you like any, or do a totally different one. But we'll bring you some ideas, weaving in the things that you would like to see, and we'll see how you feel about them at our next work session. All right, we've got 15 minutes left, so I am going to quickly do mission. We'll get as far as we can with mission. A mission articulates what is unique about who the district is, what the district does, and who it serves. So this is typically a little bit longer, and it's kind of how we're getting to the district mission. Like I shared, we had the team brainstorm about describing who we are, who we serve, and what we do. I was going to have you all brainstorm, but I think we're short on time, so I'm just going to kind of show you what they said, and then we'll get to what examples they shared. Here, these don't follow all of those, but we did want to share with you some other sample mission statements. From one district, they wrote, "We ensure success by inspiring students and addressing barriers to learning. We develop scholars through world-class learning experiences to attain an exceptional knowledge base, critical and relevant skill sets, and necessary dispositions for success, and ensure that every school graduates the students with their full potential through rigorous and joyful learning experiences provided in a nurturing environment." They don't have all the pieces, but they do have some of them. This last one does have kind of all the pieces. Waukees Community Schools is a rapidly growing and increasingly diverse school district. We believe every individual's unique background and culture enhance our schools. By focusing on the joy of learning and growth for everyone, we create a dynamic work environment for our staff while engaging our students, families, and the community through innovative educational experiences.
I love that one.
All right, and so we did have the steering committee just brainstorm a little bit. They actually spent more time brainstorming the actual ideas, but so I'll just go quickly through this. Some groups wrote, for who we are, they said we are one RCSD, and then they put in parentheses, well, we want to be, but we're not there yet. Part of the Big Five, a well-resourced community, third largest urban district in New York State. We represent over 67 languages, and we accept everyone, therefore all are welcome. For who we serve, they put all students and their unique identities and strengths. Our scholars are global citizens and multilingual, culturally diverse learners, families, faculty, and staff, and a diverse group of urban families. And for what we do, we educate people pre-K3 through adult. We teach academics, arts, athletics, professional, vocational, and trades with lots of rich opportunities. And we have diverse programs and offerings from cradle to career. So then what they did, they spent more of the time developing some new mission statements. Oh wait, no, here's our current mission statement. Foster students' individual talents and abilities in a nurturing environment of equity. We asked them to have feedback on this or to write a new one. We actually didn't get any feedback on this. We were running out of time at that meeting. But they wrote some sample missions that they wanted us to share. We tap into and honor individuality and voice in all our CSD families and community members by creating a supportive, collaborative, and safe environment. We commit to utilizing all resources available in the district and community to help our scholars reach or unlock their highest potential. As stewards of Rochester's youth, we create a community of empathy, equity, and accountability that encourages the development of empowered students who are prepared to succeed beyond graduation. This last one you saw in vision, they said mission, we weren't exactly sure where to put it. We are a tight-knit community that activates dreams and unlocks potential. And I would, if we're gonna go with that one, I would add a little bit about how we do that. So I'd love to just get your thoughts about what we just saw. Do you like any of these? Do you want to just modify the one we currently have? Or are there certain phrases that you like that we could weave into some examples to share with you next time?
I like the first one. Now, Commissioner LeBron was just saying that it's not, what did you just say?
No.
She just, because you did.
I did. It was a sidebar. So.
Oh, excuse me. But I like the first one. Commissioner Malloy, let me go to you. Your thoughts on these?
Yeah, I like the first one, and also the third and fourth.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Adams.
I like the third one.
Mm-hmm. That's, yeah, they did a good job on these, yeah. Commissioner Simmons?
First and third, I'm gonna sit with that for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, Commissioner LeBron? Vice President LeBron?
I like the third one, but I do think there's some word tweaking. Like even the development of empowered students, I feel like it would be better if it was like development of innovative students or something to align with the feedback from the previous slide from Commissioner Simmons, you know, who are prepared to succeed beyond graduation. I would like to tweak that to just add maybe potentially who are prepared to, you know, contribute back to society beyond graduation, however they choose to.
Now, I will say that none of that seems to focus in on student outcomes. Mm-hmm. And so I think that we will have to have something that focuses in on student outcomes.
Okay.
Well, I have to disagree with you, Commissioner.
Okay.
Because prepared to succeed. How are they prepared to exceed? They have to have had some academic excellence in order to be prepared to succeed. I actually like to succeed beyond graduation because it doesn't focus entirely on contributions, citizenship. It can include the words that I added before, like well-rounded and fulfilled. You know, I mean, one student's idea of success could be very different from another's.
Yeah, I take that, Commissioner Powell. Thank you for that. I still think that we gotta, I don't know, more student focus though. Yeah. Anyone else? All right.
Okay, well, we will, again, come back, we'll take your thoughts, weave them into a couple examples, bring them back to you and see if any of them resonate or if we need to do any more creative combining. All right, so as we end this presentation, just want to know if you have any questions about the strategic plan process.
Let me start with Commissioner Malloy. Any questions, Commissioner? About the process?
Not so much the process as just how we're going to then merge the goals that we come up with, how we're going to merge those into the strategic plan.
Yeah, I'm actually going to talk to the superintendent and Chief Evans after this meeting to talk about whether we need to modify our process a little bit to make sure it's aligned with what you all come up with.
Any other comments for our guest, Commissioner Adams?
So I was just wondering when you coming back.
So we have not set our next date, but I'll work with Superintendent and Chief Evans to find out when we're going to come back. Typically, we come back the next month, but we can do it as soon as the district would like us to.
It's tomorrow.
All right, well,
Any
we're
other
not coming back
Commissioner
tomorrow.
Simmons?
No, just more of a comment, just I'm happy to hear there'll be potential modification or tweaking to make sure it is aligned with the goals. Because what we want to make sure that if we have goals that are 5-year goals and things of that nature, that we're not doing this again next year, right? So the sustainability will be so important. Thank you.
Vice President LeBron?
This is my third time doing this in 6 years, so we'll see. And that's why I says this. I can't even say the word because of my tongue ring. But I will say this, that this process has been different from the previous two that I've had to participate in. So kudos for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Powell? I'm good. So one of the things that I would say, and let me just broach that to the superintendent. I think we may have had a conversation about this, but Howard Eagle had made a comment about us doing why do we have to continue doing a strategic plan that we had one before? And so I'd like to have that comment to be on record, Dr. Peluso, to Howard Eagle with regard to why is it necessary to do a different strategic plan. Dr. Peluso?
Well, I think this is obviously a different administration, a different board. We've had a strategic plan that I believe was created last time that was done rather quickly and without, I think, the level of input that we would like to see from the community to have a strategic plan, that everyone could get behind this and support it. And I will say we have a community, and like I said, I'm going to send the strategic planning committee out. We have 40 people that are strong voices from the community and the district. And then we're going to be going out to the community on 10 focus groups. And then also this is going to be about gathering the right amount of input so that we have the right metrics, the right vision, we have the right mission that people in this community and the district can all get behind.
Thank you. So this concludes this session. There's more information to come in terms of continuing to develop our goals from the board. We do want to invite the community who are listening and who may listen in the future to contact us with some of your ideas around our goals. Also, if we are on the right track, with our goals, also let us know that. And so we thank you, and we will say good, Oh, so can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So Commissioner LeBron, motion. Commissioner Simmons, second. All right. Thank you. Everybody have a good night. Good night, Commissioner Malloy.
Thank you. Good night.